I'm so honored to say Sir Anthony Hopkins joins us now. Hello and welcome to the program. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Congratulations on the film. It really is quite incredible.
Thank you. It is good, isn't it? I thoroughly enjoy doing it. Just last year, it seems I feel very nostalgic for that period because it was a most enjoyable film to work on.
I'm seeing, Oscar buzz. I'm seeing that this is one of the best of Anthony Hopkins's career. Does it stand out to you? Does it feel something special to you?
Yes, it does. The last 5 or 6 years have been pretty good for me. I've been in England. I did King Lear and The Dresser with Ian McKellen, and King Lear with Emma Thompson, and The Two Popes. And then this one, they were all very good, wonderful directors. But this one was really special because it was a different kind of script. It came out of the blue. My agent phoned me one day, said, would you read something called The Father? So I read it and I thought, oh, it's one of those that comes up once in a while, and you think, well, this is almost like the perfect script. It was written by Florence Ella, and the screenplay written by Christopher Hampton. And it was one of those things that really grab you. Condensed and contained and upsetting in its strange way. So I met them for breakfast and over here in Los Angeles, and I was already signed to do The Two Popes in Rome. So I thought, oh, I hope I don't lose it, because they wanted to go earlier, but they waited for me. So I'm so thrilled that they waited.
Yeah, they were very intentional. Florian Zeller, the playwright, said, when I was dreaming about the film, the first and only face that came to me was Anthony Hopkins. Why do you think that was? What do you think he saw in you about this role?
I have no idea. I have no idea, but I found it very hard to believe. He renamed the part Anthony. And when I mentioned my date of birth, that is my date of birth. I don't know why. That was a trick, I guess, but it was, I have no idea. I'm very pleased that he did want me to do it. No, it was quite extraordinary, quite an extraordinary part to play.
Even though, I mean, the character in the original was Andre, it was changed to Anthony, and like you said, it has your day of birth. You are the same age as this person who's losing his grip on what's real and not real, struggling with senility, struggling with dementia and Alzheimer's. Obviously, it's not your experience. I'm very curious about acting, as I've never done it. What do you draw on to inhabit someone like that?
Well, I don't want to sound highfalutin about acting, because I'm not. It's something I've been doing for a long time now. I don't know how to do it. It's just something you can do all. Yeah. And as I'm getting older, I find it easier to be in touch with emotions and feelings I've locked up for a long time. Being from Britain and male and all that, you don't show emotions and all that stuff. But it's interesting because recently, just before we did the film, we had a forum of 15 to 20 young people here in Los Angeles, and they were actors and musicians, and it was called the Artists Forum. And I did it for free, and I'd go in and they'd ask me questions. And the more they asked me, I would ask them practical questions like, how hard is it for you to find work in this business? They all put their hands up. I said, yes, it is. That's the toughness of the game. I said, but you just keep on plugging away at it. And I found the whole idea of talking to these younger people, they're all younger than me, everyone was younger than me. I found it very emotionally uplifting and revealed a lot about myself. So when I was doing this film, I was ready and raw. And I'm not a method actor. I mean, I don't sit in the corner worrying about it. I don't like going have a cup of tea, have a cup of coffee, I'll sit in the morning. Action. It's that simple. It's no big sweat. Some people want to make a big deal of it. I can't. I've got a life of my own. And acting to me is a hobby, a paid hobby. But I enjoy it. I don't know why I do it. I don't know to this day why I'm an actor. I mean, it's all a big surprise to me after 60 odd years I've been doing this now. So it's even longer, in fact. Gee.
I love that contrast you were talking about there about, when you're a man, especially of a certain generation, and I'm from the East Coast of Canada. I'm from Newfoundland, where it was very similar, that, and I heard you talk about this in an interview one time, and it stuck with me, that you went to a funeral one time and there was mourning being done by the women in the room and the men were drinking. They were just getting as hammered as they possibly could. And I've always loved that idea of that there are these, very intense, stoic men who are unable to show any emotion, yet I can see them on stage or I can see them in a film and they all of a sudden are able to get that out as some sort of maybe reaction to that, if you know what I mean.
Cultural thing, isn't it? Well, I don't know if there's such a thing as permanent personality. I doubt that we can change through but I suppose from the very beginnings of time, we were wired, the male was wired to kill and destroy, and there are problems today. And so you couldn't be weeping when you were killing your food, buffalo. You just didn't have the time to do that. I mean, that's a stupid analogy, but I think it's in there to have to show tough, But I still get slightly embarrassed when I see men crying, and yet I cry easily myself. And it's very odd because as I've got to this age now, I'm 82, I will be 83 at the end of this year. There's one poem that haunts me, which is T.S. Eliot's The Love Song of Alfred Prufrock. And he says at the end, I grow old, I grow old. I shall wear the bottoms of my trousers rolled. And that, when I say that, I get tearful because it's not even a melancholy or a depression. It's the fact that I've had an extraordinary life and I'm pulling all the strings and the fabrics of my life together now. And the past is very present to me. My own parents, my father, who worked hard all his life, and my mother and my grandparents. So I'm pulling all those threads into me. And I can't even describe it, but it's a locality in my head that I'm back in Wales. And it has a tremendously powerful effect on me because I realize that, I'm up there now. And I'm not scared. I'm not afraid. And I just
you're not, because it's very scary. It's a very scary film in some ways. Like I found it very scary. In fact, I read one review that said it is the scariest It's scarier than any horror films that was going to be at Sundance. And I should say for people like who are, I don't want to give it too much away, but it's about a man who's dealing with senility and he's living with his family, and you're not entirely sure what he experiences is real. And the saddest moments are when he doesn't even bother to argue with them about what he thinks is real and what is not real. He says, okay, well, whatever, we'll just sort of move on with our lives. It terrified me about getting older, Anthony, to be honest. I find it remarkable that you say you're not scared of it.
Well, what's the point? Because it's inevitable. We're not, life is terminal. It's a terminal condition, and we're not going to get off the planet alive. And with that reality, there's a tremendous freedom. You're much younger than me, much younger. But I've reached the stage, I don't know if anxiety, a little bit of that. But no, I'm not, because there's nothing I can do about it. Moving finger rights and having Rick moves on. All that party no wit can lure it back, or whatever it was, Omakam, isn't it? Come fill the cup before we too into the dust descend, dust under dust and under dust. There's a wonderful peacefulness about it. And I remember when my mother was dying, she just had enough. She was 89 and she just wanted to go. And I mean, it's a sad subject to talk about, but that's the inevitable part. That's what makes, Carl Jung said that once we reach a certain age in our lives and we get into the middle life of the 40s and 50s, we look at the horizon and we see at the horizon, because we all go around, life is fun, the red carpet and all that. And you see on the horizon, death. And there's no way. And we think, okay, well, he's there, hello. And it's a message, just enjoy it, War and Peace, Pierre Bezukhov, he's on the retreat from Moscow and captured by the French and Napoleon's armies. And he meets this old peasant, Platon Karataev. And Platon Karataev is an old peasant. And he's dying of frostbite. And they shoot him in the end. But he says to Pierre, he said, just live life today. That's all. Just live it today.
As Bob Dylan said, the flowers of the city, though breath-like, get death-like at times, but there's no use in trying to deal with the dying, though I cannot explain that in lines.
Yeah, there's a great philosopher, Bob Dylan, a great one, isn't he?
The idea that we can't quite We can't quite explain that. We can't quite make art about it. But this is perhaps the closest I've felt. And you and I talked about this right before we turned the microphones on, that it gave me a great empathy. Of course, when you watch this film, it can be hard to watch because it reminds you of people you've had in your life who have experienced senility and dementia and Alzheimer's. And it made me question empathy. Not whether I should have empathy, but the empathy perhaps I didn't have. Because I think when you're able to use this film to see reality through someone with senility or dementia or Alzheimer's, you begin to really have a deeper empathy for them, perhaps one that was missing before.
Yes, indeed. I just happened to pick up on something the other day, 2 days ago, about this present situation with the pandemic and the increase of massive depression throughout the world, and young people especially. And any age, but young people who've had their dreams dashed. And it's a morbid subject. And I just found out about the suicide rate. And somebody I knew recently committed suicide. And it gave me a sense of, God almighty, how lucky I am. I mean, I've had my moments of depression or melancholy, whatever you want, sadness, but my life hasn't been rough in any way. I'm very, very fortunate. But I look and think, God almighty, that's compassion, that's love, that's something so powerful, because you think, I know nothing really. And people just, I don't know what the statistics are, but every few minutes somebody's dying because they can't face the pain of life. But life is painful. And when I did that forum last year before we did the Father, I'd say to these young kids, I say, life is painful. It's not all, passion and, get man and be first on top of it. There's no way we can guarantee that. And that brought the emotions up to me. I thought, we are pretty powerless.
You say when you go onto the set, you're not method or anything. You can have a cup of tea, have a cup of coffee. Hi, how are you? And then do your work. But after your work, after you inhabit someone like this, after you're crying and after you're dealing with experiencing all this and going through it with your mind, do they stay with you afterwards?
No, not in my mind. I go back, I'm a bit tired at the end of the day. But so I say I'm not a method actor. Well, I'm not, I know my way through Stanislavski and all that stuff. I know about the method. I'm not condemning that. That's fine.
Sure.
But I can't sit in the corner thinking I'm a plant or anything like that. but I suppose because every day I'd have to go in and put on clothes of this bedraggled old man and act out, and my brain then I'd say to my brain, I'm just playing, I'm only play acting, this is not for real, because our brain believes anything we tell it. But the funny side effects was that I found my body beginning to break down. And it took me several weeks to begin to walk properly because it affected my body. And I'm not, as I say, I'm not a man. I wasn't crippled, but my back ached and I felt tired because it did have an effect on me, but at an unconscious level. So I had to wake up and think, okay, stop it. Come on, let's get back to normal. And I think it's a healthier, that's my choice of a healthier method of working, because I can't, swallow and digest all that intensity and become that. Somebody asked me about playing Elector. I'm nothing like that man at all. But
good. That would be horrible if you were. I'd be terrified right now.
But you just be able to. There are parts of, I suppose, my skill as an actor, if you want to call it that, for whatever it is. I was blessed or cursed with an analytical side of my nature, which sort of understands personality. I study people from a very early age, and I take in people's habits and their movements and their shadow moves, and I can glean from them, and I can use that.
Is that different than caring? Not to say that you don't care, but oftentimes you hear when you want to have empathy, when you want to feel something for somebody, you're able to put yourself in their shoes. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, that's easy to do. I can do that, yes, because we never know what pain people are in. We never know. People suffer terrible loneliness, and my wife and I, we are drawn to that. We see it. We spot it in people. We try the best we can, to help and gather people around, because loneliness is the big illness, malady. Isolation and loneliness. And this pandemic we're going through now is a hallmark of isolation. And God help anyone. So, I try to cheer people up and say, smile, it may never happen. Let's try to be as cheerful as we can.
It's been lovely hearing you use so much poetry already, because I know this about you. I've read that you memorize difficult poems to keep your mind sharp when you don't have a script to memorize. In the spirit of entertaining people, I wonder if you'd indulge us and could you give us a little bit of a poem that means something to you?
Let us go then, you and I, when the evening is spread out against the sky, like a patient ether rised upon a table. Let us go through certain half-deserted streets, the muttering retreats of restless nights, in one-night cheap hotels, and sawdust restaurants with oyster shells, streets that follow like a tedious argument of insidious intent to an overwhelming question. Oh, do not ask, what is it? Let us go and make our visit. In the room, the women come and go, talking of Michelangelo. That's from T.S. I can't do it without getting tearful, because it's about life. It's about coming to the stage of life where it's not even pain, it's not even depression, it's a kind of sweetness. It's a kind of yearning. And I think that's what it is for me. He says in the end, he says, I have seen the moment of my greatness flicker, and I have seen the eternal footman hold my coat and snicker, and in short, I was afraid.
My guest is Sir Anthony Hopkins, doing the love song of J. Alfred Prufrock by T.S. Eliot a little bit there. I wanted to ask you about this. I was reading in an interview that you were diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome, and it happened later in life. How does that affect you as an actor?
Well, I don't.
Do you know?
It doesn't affect me. I'm obsessive. I mean, it's a great gift actually, because I was a bit slow as a school kid, and so I made up for it by working hard, and I became, a successful actor. Obsessiveness about the details, and I will work and work and work on the script, and I learn every single line, not of everyone's part, but I learn that. And but I'm not quirky. I think I'm a bit. I'm an absent-minded professor. I forget things, and I get obsessed with stupid details. My father was like that. My father, when everyone arrived at the house, and as a kid, my father said, "What road did you take?" Huh? He said, "Well, we came from Gloucester." "Oh, but did you go through Chepstow?" "Yeah." My mother said, "Why are you asking all these questions?" I thought, no, that's me. I asked her, "So which route are you coming? Are you coming in through Culvers?" "Oh," my wife says, "Why do you need to know?" I said, "I don't know." And I have this extraordinary thing about dates. I can remember dates, and through the years, dates and days of for many, many years.
I wonder what that's like to have a key to your psyche late in life, to have lived your life. I'm Sir Anthony Hopkins. I am me, and then to one day find out, oh, I also am this. I also am part of this.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's a surprise. I recently, my wife is making a documentary film about me, and recently we were in Wales playing the father in England, in London, and we went to Wales, and my wife interviewed a school teacher, and he's 95 years of age now, and and he said of me, he said, "Well, Anthony," he said, he didn't have a clue. And so within 10 years of leaving school, he was understudying Laurence Olivier at the National Theatre. He said, "So now," and I thought, and when she said that, I said, "What?" And it got me thinking. I thought, my God, that's the extraordinary thing. And for me, it's the most meaningful thing of my life now, is that I have no idea how any of this happened. I left school in 1955, went in the army, did my national service or military service, and I came out and went to 2 years in the Royal Academy and all that. So in a period of a few years, I'd gone from here to there. It's impossible, and I can't take credit for any of that. I cannot take credit for any of that. I remember seeing Peter O'Toole in Bristol Old Vic playing Jimmy Porter, 1957, at the Bristol Old Vic. And I thought, what an actor. And I'd forgotten this. 10 years later, I was playing his son in the film called Lion in Winter. And I'd forgotten all that. I'd forgotten the details of the time and the decades. And I look at my life, I thought, this is quite extraordinary. And I really believe this. And I'm not talking religion, I'm talking about something else that is running our lives. I don't believe I'm in charge of my life is none of my business. I got on some vast vehicle of some kind. it's like some great, slow-moving, cumbersome elephant that goes through life. And I'm on its back, the gentle elephant. And I'm riding through this landscape, and my life is, I'm sitting here now talking to you in Canada. And I think, how on earth did any of this happen? And it's the only information I can glean for myself is a feeling that life is a dream. It's all an illusion. And now people would say that's nuts. I'm not in the solipsistic way, but I do believe that this is a dream, all of it. It feels like it. My whole life has felt like that.
When you were filming The Two Popes, when you were Pope Benedict, when you were filming, you were in the Sistine Chapel, you were surrounded by, the beauty and the pomp and circumstance and the excess of the Vatican, and you were surrounding yourself in all these big questions. Did that give you any greater perspective on all of this?
It did. It was interesting looking at those paintings. It's quite extraordinary. It was a bit of a revelation because it's extraordinary. From here down is the carnal. And you look at all those paintings, everything up here is enlightenment. It's very odd because years before, many years ago, I was in Rome doing another film, Titus, and I met a priest in a restaurant near the steps, And he said, "Oh, you're the actor," and he was Austrian, and he got out of Germany before the war started, and but he said, "So are you enjoying Rome?" I said, "Yes." And so I said, he said, "I'm at the Vatican." I said, "Oh, you are, yeah." So he asked me about myself. Did I have any faith? I said, "Well, yes, I do, but I have doubts." He said, "Same as here." He said, "I always had doubts." He said, "And I always had doubts." He said, "But he said, one day I was in this cafe full of the dark night of the soul." He said, "And I looked around and I saw all the young people, young girls and their boyfriends. And he said, I suddenly realized that is it. It's life itself." And he said something remarkable to me. He said, "One day you'll be back in Rome and you'll have a big surprise in your life." I said, "What's that?" He said, "I don't know, but something's going to happen to you. It will really, you'll remember my conversation." He was an old man then. That was 1998. And all those years later, I'm playing with Pope. And it didn't hit me until I was actually in the studio and down near the steps. I thought, my God, this is weird. Suddenly you are, life is so extraordinary because I wake up in the middle of the dream in a way. I'm in a place and I'm thinking, I'm actually here. I believed this at some point and here it is. And I'm always in a state of surprise. So maybe that's why I'm an actor, because I don't have a clue about it. Or maybe that's my Asperger's thing. But I really don't. I don't know much.
How lovely that to give control of your life over to something that's sort of unknown, and also just to feel like you can look through your life and say, "Here I am. I'm in it. This is the movie I'm cast in, and it's beautiful." You mentioned just then that you were an understudy for Sir Laurence Olivier at the Royal National Theatre. In his memoir, he says that when you filled in for him, he said you made off with the part like a cat with a mouse between its teeth. Could you tell us a Sir Laurence Olivier story? Do you have one offhand?
Oh, he was extraordinary. He was, I went on stage for the night. He'd gone into hospital, St. Thomas's Hospital, he had prostate cancer. And in those days, it was, killer. So he was having radium treatment. And I then studied him in Dance of Death, Strindberg. And I was told I was on stage, and I thought they were crazy. But I went on and, I did okay. And the audience gave me standing ovation. And I didn't know. I thought, what am I doing here? What am I doing here? But I did it, and it was like automatic pilot. And he phoned me the next morning. And he said, "I saw you last night." I said, but he came out in his bathrobe with his doctor and stood at the back. He said, "You did well done." I said, "Thank you." He said, "How did you feel?" I said, "Well, my problem is I went through too many shirts because of the sweat, because of nerves." He said, "Well, that's called tension." I said, "How long does it take to cure that?" He said, "About 25 years.
Oh, my Lord.
The trick is, he said, you get to a point when you relax. And he said, "But you did so well." He said, and he gave me such encouragement, And I look at that part of my life as quite extraordinary.
Was he right? Was he right? In 25 years after that, were you?
Yeah, so I relax and I don't, I don't care. Of course I care. I want to get the job done right, and I do it, and I do the best of my ability. But I don't take myself seriously within it. I just let go. And I had a very profound thought I was going to tell you, and I've forgotten.
Oh, please.
Never mind.
Oh, dig for it. I'm sure you'll. Well, let me ask you this, and maybe this will jog it back, because I was thinking that you become the understudy for Sir Laurence Olivier. He says that about you. Sir Richard Attenborough calls you the greatest actor of your generation. I find it remarkable that pressure would crush some people. The pressure of these legends saying these wonderful things about you. I find it so incredible that you were able to handle it.
Well, I'll tell you a story. My father and mother, they came to see me in the theatre, the National Theatre, at the old Vic it was in those days. And I was in a play called, with Joan Plowright, who was Laurence Olivier's wife. And we had these scenes together. I was her husband. And much to my astonishment, and it was a very successful play, and apparently I was very good in it. Anyway, my mother and father there, they were a little boy from Wales, and they were in the dressing room, and Joan Plowright came in from next door. She met my mother and my father. And then Olivia came in. My father took out cigarettes and he started smoking. My mother went very. I said, "This is Lord Olivia, as you was then." My mother said, "I said, hello, Mrs. Hopkins." And my father, in his nervousness, he said, "How old are you?" He said, "I was born in 1907. He said, "Same age as me, both going down the bloody hill now, aren't we?" He said, and Olivia laughed. And my mother said at the end, she said, "That's Laurence Olivier. He said, he breathes oxygen just like me, doesn't he?"
Yeah.
At that moment, he breathes oxygen. So there's nothing special about any of us. I'm just fortunate to be what I do. I mean, I've enjoyed it. I've had a tremendous life, beyond anything I could have dreamed.
What role are you most proud of?
I think this one, the father. The remarkable thing is about this is that it was Florian Zeller's first directorial film. He never directed a film before. Christopher Hampton, did his screenplay, Florian's play, and this was his first film. So I couldn't believe it. It's quite extraordinary because he was in such control and such humility about it all. And I think this is my favorite. Well, there's Remains of the Day, King Lear I did, big parts. The Dresser with Ian McKellen, wonderful actor. The Two Popes, Jonathan Pryce. But I think this was my favorite because it was more meaningful to me. It was Alfred Prufrock, coming to the end of his life. And I've heard the mermaids singing each reach. I do not think that they will sing to me.
Sir Anthony Hopkins.
Great sweetness of life. Yeah. Sir
Anthony Hopkins, what a joy it was to talk to you. And thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you very much. Thank you.